Bonsoir à tous et à toutes, et bienvenue. Welcome to this special broadcast coming to you from Scotland this evening, and we are going to be talking about the Coffee Break French Masterclass, our special course for intermediate learners. Now, my name's Mark. I am the host and the founder of Coffee Break Languages, and I am one of the hosts of Coffee Break French. And it is my job this evening to tell you a little more about the Coffee Break Masterclass, the Coffee Break French Masterclass, and let you know what you can expect if you're interested in becoming part of this special course. Now, over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll be talking about what the masterclass involves and answering any of your questions. So I can see there are already some questions coming in. Let us know who you are and where you're watching. It's always good to know who is joining us on a live event. So it's great to see the questions coming in. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, then just pop them in the chat and I will do my best to answer the questions. So just saying a few hellos first of all. Few are saying bonsoir, bonsoir. Vishal is also saying bonsoir. Don's got a question and I'm going to be answering that question at some point during the broadcast. Okay, now this is specifically for intermediate learners, so learners who have been working on French for some time. So basically, perhaps if you have, I'll be talking a little more about the exact focus group, the exact target group a bit later on. But certainly if you're a beginner or if you're a very advanced learner, then perhaps this particular live broadcast is not for you. So I don't want to disappoint you if that's not what you're looking for. If you're looking for beginners materials or advanced materials, then possibly this broadcast is not for you. But if you're at that intermediate level and you're not quite sure how to take the next stage, then this is very much for you. So please do stick around if that applies to you. We've got Farhana joining us in Cape Town in South Africa. Fantastic. I've always wanted to go to Cape Town, never been. Marty is in Ithaca, and Datka is from Georgia. Fantastic. Great to see you here. We're delighted to have you joining us. We've got Ray joining from Dublin, a long-time fan of CBF. Excellent. That's good to know. So, as I said, I am going to be talking through what's involved in the Coffee Break French Masterclass. It's a 6-month course. It starts in July and the registration is open for the class. But I'll be giving you all the details over the next half hour or so. If you have any questions, as I've already said, please do pop them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. Ahmad is from Giza in Egypt. And we've got Cynthia joining us from Texas also. Très bien, excellent. Jessica from Californie. Super. Ben, je vais parler un petit peu en français aussi ce soir. Donc comme ça, on va apprendre un petit peu aussi. Okay, I think we will get started and let me see if my slides are working here. Just to make sure that everything is going according to plan, we should be able to see my slides here. Okay, I have to begin with a question for you. And this question is, what are your greatest challenges as an intermediate learner of French? What are the things that you find most difficult about being at this level, the level where you're kind of in the middle and you want to progress further, but sometimes the challenges are difficult. It's sometimes difficult to take where you are just now and going further from that level. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds and I'd love for you to post in the comments anything about what you find challenging at this point, at this intermediate level. We've also had some responses to this earlier today on Facebook and on Twitter, so I can share some of those with you as well. But I'd love to see your answers to this. So here's your question: what are your challenges as an intermediate level of at an intermediate level of French, as an intermediate learner of French? And I would love to see what you have to say on this. So I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock. Let's have a look at what you find most challenging. Okay, so let us take a look at some of your answers to this question. What you find most challenging as an intermediate level a learner of French. Let me just take our clock off. Okay, so here we go. I'm not quite sure how to say this YouTube name, but BMPVW. Um, you're saying most French is spoken too fast and I don't know the vocabulary. That is definitely a challenge when you have worked out the sentence that you're trying to say, you say it, and then it comes back at you and you're thinking, oh, okay, I need things to slow down. I wish I could press a pause button on somebody speaking. So that's definitely a challenge. Datka is saying production écrite, so writing the language and being able to use the language in a written form. Let's see what else. BMPVW again is saying slang is problematic. So all these colloquial expressions, which ultimately make you sound more like a native speaker, but they're quite hard to use and particularly hard to use and sound authentic using them. That's definitely a challenge at an intermediate level. Doreen is saying future tense, so the future tense, using the future tense. Brenda saying that understanding French that's spoken quickly, so it's that comprehension of the spoken French. And Drona is saying exactly the same thing, understanding fast spoken French is difficult. And again, BMPVW is saying also where I live, and I think you said you're in San Diego. I love San Diego. There are very few people to speak French with, so I hardly ever speak it. So finding that opportunity to use the language, again, quite a challenge. Jessica, vocabulary and understanding fast spoken French. Ingrid is saying listening and distinguishing the words when spoken fast and the liaison. Now, the liaison is a tricky thing. I always say that it's a tricky thing, but we don't. It's something that you don't need to worry too much about because many French speakers use liaison differently. JP saying too much repetition of basics and not enough between that and advanced, more literary French. And I would totally agree with that, JP. I think there are many, many resources available for the beginners level, and then there are also many materials available for an advanced level. And as I go on and explain a little more about the masterclass, hopefully you'll realise that it's exactly that middle level that we want to focus on. I always say that when you're learning a language, you go forward for a long time when you're really starting it, and you actually seem to make lots of progress initially. And you make that progress, and then you kind of hit a barrier, and at that barrier you're saying, I don't think I can keep going forward at this level. And at that point, what you need to do is go out the way. And when you go out the way and continue forward, you're going forward more slowly, but you're taking a lot more with you. And that's why we created the masterclass. Mridul is saying too many rules and exceptions to learn. Photographer A, finding ways to keep practicing, needing a speaking partner. Marty saying, I feel like my reading and listening has improved, but speaking and writing, particularly verb tenses, remain difficult. Sylvia, spoken or street French versus what we learn with you guys or school. Yes, so the way in which the language is really used. Lots more of you are talking about understanding spoken French. So there's Dawn saying, I understand spoken French. I have difficulty understanding spoken French, also thinking of what I want to say quickly. And it's that kind of the process that you've got to go through when you're thinking about what it is you want to say. And sometimes the conversation has moved on and you've just formed your sentence. So it's all tricky stuff. Georgie is saying, je viens de commencer La Vérité éclate toujours, je l'adore, un vrai défi. Generally most challenging for intermediate is how to keep moving forward and progressing, avoiding a plateau. Now, I should say that if any of you are already at the level of La Vérité éclate toujours, our advanced course, probably the masterclass is not quite for you. The masterclass is at a lower level, a more intermediate, and La Vérité is very much at a very, very fast level. We've got James Nichols. I don't know if this is Jimmy, but if it's Jimmy, bonsoir. James Nichols is saying, watching French cartoons, but my partner thinking I'm being childish. It's all about getting the right kind of input, and whatever input that is, if that is motivating you, then that is the important things. Yelena is saying a question here, giving us a really good question, and I'm going to come back to this a little later, Yelena. You're asking, you've done CBF Season 3, should you go on to Season 4 or the Masterclass? The very quick answer is do the Masterclass before you go on to Season 4. That's definitely the advice I would give. And over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, hopefully I'll help you to see exactly why. So I'll try to come back to your question specifically later, Yelena. Let's come back to the slides because we asked this same question to our communities in various places, both previous students of the masterclass and students who are involved in our Facebook group or other students that we communicate with through by email and so on. And some of them said, making sense of verbs in different tenses. So like some of you have said tonight. I want to sound more like a native speaker. So we're seeing common things that are coming up all the time, wanting to be able to use colloquial language and slang. I want to expand my vocabulary. I'm looking to take my vocabulary a further stage. Okay, I've heard about the subjunctive but don't have a clue how to use it. So this is the subjunctive that many of you at an intermediate stage, you may have heard about it, but you're not sure about how to use it, or it may scare you. Okay. All those wee words, all those little words like lui and en, so little words that sometimes are tricky to identify and tricky to know exactly when to use them. So we took all these questions, we took all these queries that our learners have, and we basically created a course around that, and we called it the Coffee Break French Masterclass. So what is the Masterclass? Well, it's a course that has a friendly approach, which has lessons which fit your lifestyle, lessons that fit into the lifestyle that you have, the time that you have available. Of course, engaging materials with expert teachers and native speakers, and all the course is structured, so it helps you organise your learning, and that's one of the key aspects of the masterclass. Let's continue on. Basically, the masterclass is made up of monthly modules which are formed in short, regular sessions, allowing you to maintain this structured learning all the way through. There's audio content, there's text content, and video review for each module. But this is still Coffee Break. It's still what you're used to in terms of what we do as Coffee Break learning. So 20 minutes, if you have 20 minutes to spare, perhaps 3 or 4 times a week, then you still have time to complete the content of the masterclass. Okay, no, that's not quite yet. Okay, so the masterclass is starting in July, so it actually starts on the 1st of July. And the way it works, for each month, it's exactly the same, with a slight difference in December, because we've tried to finish it off a little bit earlier before the holidays in December. So we are basically working on the same, more or less the same monthly programme each month between July and December. So let's take a look at what that means. You would get the first 3 lessons on the 1st, the 4th and the 8th of July. So we have lesson days for 3 consecutive lessons. So 1st, 4th and 8th of July on Wednesdays and Saturdays in July. And then thereafter, we take a little break from the lessons and provide an exercise for you, which will pick up on what we've covered in those first 3 lessons. So that would be on the 11th of July. Thereafter, there are another 2 lessons in the module. So lessons 4 and 5 come on the 15th and the 18th of July. Now, you may be thinking, okay, so what about the rest of the month? Well, lessons 1 to 5 happen between about the 1st and the 18th of the month. So in a sense, the first half of the month. And thereafter is all about consolidation. Any amount of language learning has to have an element of consolidation in there. And that consolidation is absolutely crucial to the learning, because you need the consolidation in order to build those strong foundations. So after the 18th, there are no more lessons as such, but we provide you with the materials that will help you review the materials that you've learned. So we've got a video review on the 22nd, and then a module test on the 25th. But nothing else until the 30th or the 31st, till the end of the month. So basically what we've got here is a month that is separated out into 2 sections. The learning section, so the first 18 days, if you like, of the month, where you're getting 5 lessons and an exercise to complete. And then the second half of the month is about consolidation, where you're looking at what you've learned already, and we're helping you review that. And then we give you a test on it to let you see how far you've come and what you've learned over the course of the month. Now, each of those lessons are made up of different things. I'm going to explain what's involved in that in just a moment. Let's look next at the content, the actual content, what makes part of each of the modules. So there are 6 modules, as I explained. And the first module is looking at tricky verbs, what we call tricky verbs. So some of these verbs you'll be looking at and you'll think, oh, well, I've heard of aller. I know aller, but do you know all the uses of aller? Do you know what s'en aller means? Do you know what the way, or alternatives to aller? And looking at things like savoir and connaître. So savoir is to know a fact, connaître is to know a person or a place. But when you know the words of a song, do you use savoir or connaître? There are tricky things about these verbs that we know quite well, and these tricky things are sometimes a little bit surprising because we don't really realise that actually there's more to these verbs than we think. So verbs like savoir connaître, aller, emmener versus amener. So when do you use both of these verbs? In a sense mean to take or to bring, but when do you use which one? These are tricky things. So in each of these we're providing materials to help you understand these verbs through conversations, through dialogues, through teaching, and through exercises. So you're able to practice what you're learning with the exercises. So as we get to the end of the module, we've looked at faire and se faire and faire and so on. We use chercher. And then at the end of the module, we've got an exercise, we've got the activities, we've got the review and the module test, allowing you to consolidate what you've learned over the course of that first month. So that would be July. July 2020, we'll be looking at tricky verbs in those 5 lessons, plus the additional materials. Thereafter, let's take a look at what August would bring. August is all about pronouns. Now, pronouns are those wee words, as we would say. So those little words that they look very similar. Some are le, la, les, lui, leur, en, yen, and so on. And all these different types of pronouns. And these pronouns sometimes are very tricky to distinguish between and also to use and then combine them with the other words, of course, that you already know. So with Module 2, we're looking at direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, using I and en, two extremely small but extremely powerful and very versatile words that are quite tricky. We'll look at using possessive pronouns and demonstrative pronouns. And at the end of this module, you'll know exactly what all these mean. So you'll know what to be able to tell the difference between a demonstrative pronoun and a possessive pronoun and the other pronouns that we're looking at there. And of course, you'll get that review, you'll get your module test and so on at the end of the month. So that's August on pronouns. Moving on to September. And September is a slightly different month because so far we've been looking at quite grammatical stuff. But by the time it gets to September, we're going to take a step back from the grammatical content and look at false friends. So false friends are those words that you think you know what they mean because they look like a word in English, but in actual fact, they mean something different. And there's many of these in French. And we'll be looking at a combination of these. But also, crucially, what you'll also see throughout Module 3 are further examples of the tricky verbs that we've learned in Module 1 and further examples of those pronouns that we've learned in Module 2. So it's all progressive. It's all about continuing what you've learned and also this kind of spaced repetition, meaning that something that you've covered previously will be picked back up on in a future module, and it's all there to help you become more confident in using the words and phrases that you've learned and the grammatical concepts that you've learned previously. Okay. Moving on now to October, which at the moment seems a long way away, but I'm sure it will be with us before we know it. And in October, we're focusing on tenses. I know some of you mentioned that you find the future tense, for example, difficult. Well, in this module, we'll be looking at the perfect tense and mastering it with both avoir and être. So you know that some verbs take avoir and some verbs take être in the perfect tense. We'll also be using another past tense, the imperfect tense. And we'll look at the future, the conditional, and the pluperfect. So different tenses that are covered during this module. And again, those are 5 lessons spread over the course of the month. And of course, you'll get your exercise, your activities, your review, and your module test. Moving on to November, and November is the month of the subjunctive. Now, as I said earlier, I think sometimes people get a little bit scared by the subjunctive and worry about trying to use the subjunctive. You might have heard of it. You might think, oh, there's a strange kind of verb that I need to know how to use. First of all, I would always say don't worry about the subjunctive. There are very clear triggers that are 99% of the time fail safe in terms of when you use the subjunctive. And in this module, we're going to be learning about some of these triggers. You'll understand the concept and the formation of the present subjunctive. You'll learn to use the subjunctive with some triggers, including bien que, pour que, il faut que, and so on. Then you'll use the subjunctive with verbs of wishing and wanting. And we're actually going to be doing another live broadcast, and I think the module that we're going to be using as an example is one of the subjunctive modules. So we will give you a chance to see that in a later Facebook Live or YouTube Live. So that's November, looking at the subjunctive. And last but not least, December, one of our most popular modules in the masterclass, and that is how to sound more French. So you'll learn to sound more authentic, and by learning to sound more authentic, you'll also learn to understand native speakers using that authentic French. So you'll learn to drop words like ne. You'll learn to use alternative colloquial question forms. You'll learn to use filler words, and you'll learn to use the word quoi, which it basically means what, but it's used in a variety of ways in French. So all of these things will help you sound more French when you're speaking. And as I say, it's one of the most popular modules in the masterclass that many of our learners have reported on. Okay, so that is the summary of the content of what's involved in each lesson. What I should be clear about is that each lesson, every single aspect of the masterclass, involves clear and friendly presentation, and native speakers are involved at all times. So you'll be listening to native speakers. I'll be there all the way through as your teacher, but you'll be listening to these authentic conversations which have been written by native speakers. And we also provide normal speed and slower versions of each conversations. Now, these are not sort of electronically slowed down slower conversations, as you can sometimes do with podcast apps, for example. You can press the half speed version. What we've done is recorded them twice. We've recorded them at a slow version and a normal speed version. So this gives you the chance to really, really focus on the pronunciation, but at the same time, you're still listening to what is a natural way of speaking, and it's the rhythm of the speaking and so on, that even if it's slowed down, you're picking that up. We provide full transcripts and lesson notes, so you get transcripts of all the conversations, the dialogues included, and lesson notes explaining things. And we also provide a second element of notes, and that is the extended explanations, which provide, in a sense, a grammar note. It comes together to form a kind of grammar manual, if you like, for the whole of the masterclass. We also include email check-ins, so we'll be checking in with you by email. The exercises are varied, the activities are varied. You'll get module checklists so that you can tick off at the end of each module, oh, now I know how to do this, now I know how to say that. And there's a video review for each module too, so you'll be able to review what you've covered in the module with a handy video. Now, the other aspect that is very important about the masterclass is that it involves homework. We post with every single lesson, we post homework for you. Now that homework tends to be, can you use what you've learned by posting a phrase or a couple of sentences using what you've learned in the lesson? And you'll post that in the Coffee Break Academy. You don't need to have access to a Facebook group or anything like that. This all happens within the Coffee Break Academy. And so you'll post your comments there. You'll post your homework, as it were, there. And once you've posted your homework, then the Coffee Break team will provide you with feedback on your homework. Now, this is all public, so when you post your homework, you'll get a comment saying something, well done, maybe you need to watch your agreement there, or maybe watch the spelling of this word, or that wasn't quite the right tense, you really need the imperfect there, so it should be such and such. But crucially, your homework will be getting feedback, and everyone else will see your homework plus your feedback. And you'll also see everyone else's homework plus their feedback. So that in itself is a huge learning opportunity, because you can then see the feedback that everyone's getting. If you were in a class, perhaps the teacher would come and say to you quietly, oh, well, you should have used that verb there. But in this situation, you're getting the same experience that everyone's getting, seeing everyone's homework feedback. So that is a crucial element of the masterclass, and we guarantee to provide that homework feedback on every bit of homework that you complete. Okay, that's been a lot of information so far. We've covered what is involved in the masterclass in terms of the content. We have covered what the schedule is for the masterclass over those 6 months and the days on which you'll be receiving lessons. we've also talked about the different elements of each lesson or each module of the masterclass. So hopefully all that makes sense so far. If you do have any questions, as I said, please post them in the comments. There will be time for questions in just about 5 or 10 minutes once we've gone through the final section here. Let's move on and talk a little about the target audience for the masterclass, because one thing that we are very, very keen on, it's really important for us to have the right people in the masterclass. And I don't mean that rudely. I mean, if the masterclass is not for you, if it's not the right level for you, or if it's not the right style for you, then please, please, please don't feel you need to buy it. Don't feel you need to become a member of the masterclass. We want this to be the right thing for you and the right level for you. So maybe if this one doesn't work, then there will be another one next year, and you can perhaps reach that level by next year. Perhaps if you've gone already much further than the masterclass, if you're reading already La Vérité éclate toujours, then the masterclass isn't for you. It's not really there deliberately for that level. It's there for a very specific level. Let's take a look at that level, that target audience. Here are our 4 levels currently. We also now, of course, have a 5th level in a sense with highly advanced content. But these are our 4 main seasons of Coffee Break French. Season 1 is for absolute beginners. We're looking at transactional language and a basic introduction to grammar. In Season 2, we're building that understanding, looking at the patterns of the language and starting to look at different tenses with present and perfect and so on. By Season 3, we're beginning to take things a bit further. Okay, there's more complex language, more tenses and tricky grammar, and then by Season 4, it's advanced content, complex grammar and idiomatic expressions. So those are our 4 standard seasons of the masterclass. What we really need to do here is look at where the masterclass comes in all of this. And the masterclass kind of comes around here. So looking at this graphic, we've got the European framework of reference here too, and that means basically if you're used to using this in your head as to where you are with a particular thing, well, A1 would be for beginners, A2 more experienced beginners, B1 intermediate, B1, B2 of Season 3, and then for Season 4 we would go into B2 and into C1. The masterclass is firmly in the B level. Someone was saying earlier that you find it difficult to get more materials for that intermediate level because there's so much available for beginners and so much available for advanced. And this is exactly why we created the masterclass, aimed at this level and aimed at deepening your knowledge at that level. So to summarize, if you have completed Coffee Break French Season 2 or the equivalent, and if you're working on or completed Season 3, then the masterclass is perfect for you. If you're working at B1, B2 level of the Common European Framework of Reference, again, perfect for you. And if you've not yet started Season 4, the masterclass would be perfect. If you've gone on and done Season 4 and you're very comfortable with that level of French, if you're now enjoying La Vérité éclate toujours, the masterclass is not for you. With all due respect, it's not meant rudely or anything else, but it's not for you. That's not why we created the masterclass. We created the masterclass really to help bridge between Seasons 2 and 3 and 3 and 4. It's that kind of level where you want to embed the learning that you've got and really make yourself more confident with that kind of level. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to put you off. I just want to make sure that if you were interested, that it is right for you. Because once you get started, it's important to be confident that this is the right thing for you to do. Let's look on. A very important aspect is pricing, and the pricing of the masterclass is available in 2 ways. So you can either look at it on a monthly cost, and if you're going for a monthly cost, then the cost in the UK, this includes VAT, is £55.20 per month, and that's for the 6 months of the course. So you would pay that each month of the 6 months of the course. You only make 6 payments. There's no further payments after that, but of course you would still have access to all the materials after that. If you don't pay VAT, or if you're paying elsewhere, then it would be £46. And if you're paying elsewhere in the EU, then VAT would be added at your local rate. If you're elsewhere and you don't pay VAT at all, then the US dollars rate would be $57 per month, again for those 6 months. So 6 monthly payments of either $57, excluding VAT, or $55.20 including VAT within the UK. Now, if you prefer, you can make a one-off payment. And that one-off payment, you get 1 month free. So that's a one-off payment of £276 in the UK, again including VAT, or 230 excluding VAT, and the US dollars price there is 285, again excluding VAT. Now, VAT is automatically added on our website based on where you are. So don't worry, whatever price you see on the website will be the price that you would pay. So just to be clear, for that, you're getting the 5 lessons per month, all the bonus activities, the module test, the email check-ins, the guaranteed activity feedback, and of course at the end of the course you'll get your course certificate saying that you have completed the Coffee Break French Masterclass. So 2 options, either monthly or a one-off payment, and you can see the prices there. Now, we've had lots of people go through the masterclass over the past. We launched it in 2016, so we've had many groups go through. I think we're now on group 8. So lots of people have completed the masterclass, and this is the same masterclass as we've done. So we've obviously improved it and so on, and gone through it over the course of time, but it's the same content as anyone who's done the masterclass before. So if you're watching this and thinking, oh, this is another masterclass with new content, and you've already completed the first masterclass, I'm afraid that's not the case. This is the same content as we've released before. So if that's the case, then sorry, I'm getting confused. Lots of people have completed it before. So let's take a quick look at some of the comments that we had from some of our previous students. Michael said, I like the in-depth analysis of the different topics, the use of audio, video and written material, and the opportunity to enjoy the input of other French learners, as well as receiving expert feedback, all of which makes for a comprehensive and enjoyable learning experience, which is nothing less than what I've come to expect from Coffee Break. So, merci beaucoup, Michael. Leslie said, I have really enjoyed the masterclass so far. It's helped to stay focused on my study of the French language. Its format allows for different skills, for example, listening, reading, writing. And I particularly value the video and checklist at the end of the module, which is really useful for a quick recap of the main points without going through the entire module. Okay, and I think we've got one more yet. Barbara said, I felt I was not ready to join the Coffee Break French Masterclass with my beginning level of French and was a bit intimidated. However, I was eager to learn and give it a try anyway, and I'm very happy I did. I've learned so much in these last few months from the Masterclass, from the course, the Masterclass team, as well as the other members. The course is at a doable pace. The content is relevant, and I enjoy listening to the spoken French. And I think Barbara's comment there is really crucial. She said that she's enjoyed as much learning from the content, the masterclass team, but also other learners. So it really is a shared learning experience. What you learn is not just from the content, it's from the feedback that other learners are giving. And it's very much a class where, in as much as is possible through text communication, you do, if you want, get to know a little your fellow learners. We invite everyone to introduce themselves and give some reasons as to why you want to improve your French. That's entirely optional, of course, as are all the homework activities. Our only criterion for the homework activities is that if you want the feedback, then you do those publicly, and that way everyone can benefit from that. Okay, I think it is time for... it's not quite time for questions. It's just time to let you know about registration. Registration is already open, so you can access the masterclass already, and the course begins on the 1st of July. So we've already got students signing up to be part of the class of 2020, and I should say that the course is limited. Okay, so the course is limited in terms of the number of students at any one time who can go through the masterclass, and that's basically because we've got a team who provide that feedback, and we can't provide the feedback for thousands of learners, so that's why we do limit the numbers. So registration will close on the 30th of June or when the class is full. If the class is full before the 30th of June, then we will have to close before then. So in a sense, there is a little bit of a necessity to get in there sooner rather than later if it's something that you feel is right for you. To sign up, simply go to coffeebreakfrenchmasterclass.com and you'll see the course there. You'll see the Spanish one as well. Make sure you sign up for the French one if it's the French one you're looking for. And that is as much as we need to tell you about the masterclass. So, you have been very patiently listening to my explanations of the masterclass and what's involved. We've looked at the content, we've looked at the schedule, we've looked at the target audience, we've looked at what each element involves, and we've also talked about pricing and how to sign up. If you have any questions at all, I would be very, very happy to answer them now. And I know that we've got a few already in the comments here. Let me just scroll back because I'm trying to. I think we had Yelena with a question. Yep. So let's have a look at Yelena's question. So Yelena said, I've already followed CBF Season 3. Should I go on straight to Season 4 or to the Masterclass? Je lis le français et j'ai très bien compréhension orale, mais je n'ai aucun de parler français. Okay, so you've got no one to speak French with. Speaking French with someone, that's not, we don't provide an opportunity specifically for you to practice your speaking in the masterclass. That's not something that we can provide. We don't have enough staff for that. There are other services out there that do provide exactly that, but that's not something that we can provide as part of the masterclass, unfortunately. However, in terms of should you go straight on to Season 4 after Season 3 or do the masterclass first, as I intimated earlier, I would very much suggest that you do the masterclass first. The reason being, the masterclass will help you build that strong foundation, and then you'll see lots of what you've covered in the masterclass in Season 4, and that will not slow you down in Season 4. Whereas if you went straight onto Season 4 without doing the masterclass, then the chances are you may find that the Season 4 is just a too big a jump, in a sense, from Season 3. So if you've got the opportunity, I would say Season 3, then masterclass, then go on to Season 4 and onwards to La Vérité. Brooke, thank you for letting us know your name. I feel I need to have people to speak with either in person or online, but if they speak English, I get shy. Yeah, okay, so again, that's speaking in a sense. What we will be providing, you will get the chance to contribute your homework, and you'll be reading other people's homework, and you'll be able to follow there, and hopefully that will help you build your confidence so that when it comes time to speak, when it comes time to type to people, then you're able to do that. Let me see if we've got any other questions here. I'm just scrolling through. Best way to improve. Okay. Yelena says, merci. Thank you very much indeed, Yelena. Okay, we don't seem to have any other questions in the chat. Again, I'll be around for another few minutes, so if you do have any questions, then please feel free to ask them. What I just wanted to mention briefly is the fact that if this is not quite right for you, if you're thinking, this is not really right for me, then sorry, I'm a bit distracted there by a question, but I'll get to that in a moment. If this is not quite right for you, then we do have lots of other materials as well that you can use. So we have got a couple more questions. So we've got Brooke asking again, are the classes live or can you catch them later? That's a really good question, and I should have mentioned that already. The classes are not live, so the classes are available within the Coffee Break Academy. So the audio content is there. When we put the video review out, that's there. You can access that when you want. There's no necessity to access that on that particular day. I know I said previously with the calendar that this comes out on day 1 and this comes out on the 4th, this comes out on the 8th and so on. That's just the day that they're made available. So when they're available, you can use them. Or you can catch up the day after, or you can catch up in a few days' time. Basically, the fact that the second half of the month is available for you to do all that consolidation, you can also catch up then. So, for example, if you were on holiday, I know probably going on holiday at the moment is not really possible, but if you were busy with work or if you're busy with family duties or whatever, in the first half of the month, then you've still got the second half of the month to catch up. So, the other thing is that when it comes to doing your homework, we would ideally like you to be able to do your homework around the same time as other people are doing it, so that the people who are correcting it kind of all at the same time. If someone posts their homework for Module 1 in month 4, then it's sometimes easy to miss. So that's simply what we mean. It's handy if everyone can do their homework around the same time. So it's a really good question, Brooke. Thank you for that. Lizzie's asking a similar question: are the lessons live, or can I catch up later if I miss the date given? Yeah, absolutely. You can catch up whenever you want, and indeed after the 6 months, you can still work away. We still have people finishing off the masterclass from October 2019, so that one finished in March, and there are still a few people finishing off there in terms of they're not still submitting homework, but they're still working on the materials to finish off the masterclass. In terms of live lessons, in terms of live interaction, we are going to be trying with this masterclass a few experiments as to when we could maybe look at doing a sort of live review of things. As soon as we start doing live content, then it means that we've got to think about time zones, because there are people from all over the world that will be involved in the class. So we need to do that carefully. We will not be, the live lessons will not be a key part of the masterclass. All the content is delivered on an on-demand basis. But we will be looking at doing some little experiments as to whether or not the live lessons could feature in the masterclass. So hopefully that will explain things. Heather is saying, late to the webinar party because of work stuff, but I'm signed up and can't wait to start. That's brilliant. We're delighted to hear that, Heather. Thank you for joining in. And Brenda is asking, Marc, vous n'arrêtez jamais de travailler? Sometimes it feels like that. I don't stop working, but yeah, I love doing this, and I love sharing my passion for learning French and other languages with all of you, and that's why I keep doing this. Okay, just let me double check. I did have some questions that we got asked earlier. Some of these may have been answered. These came in on the Facebook page earlier. Do I need a particular device or computer to use the masterclass? And the answer to the question there is no. You can access the masterclass on any device, whether that's a phone, a laptop, a desktop computer, an Android tablet, an iPad, whatever it is. All of the lessons are audio and video materials and text materials. So as long as you can use a website, then you are able to access the masterclass. Another question that we got earlier was, what happens if I'm on holiday? How do I keep up with the classes? Again, I think we've kind of covered that. So there is the opportunity to complete your homework at a later date and so on. There's no necessity for you to do the lessons on a particular day. I think there was one more question that came in earlier. Are there live sessions with native speakers? Again, we've dealt with that. We've explained the whole situation with the live side of things. Okay, we're going to stop there. Thank you all so much for joining us for this session. If you are interested in signing up for the masterclass, then you can do so at coffeebreakfrenchmasterclass.com. Go straight there, and you can read some more information about it with more detail on the contents and the contents for each month and so on there. Also, stay tuned both on Facebook and on YouTube, because we will be doing a couple of other webinars between now and the end of the month, just to answer any questions that you may have, and we'll also be doing some sample lessons. So do stay tuned for that. We will be updating both our social feeds and here on YouTube for those forthcoming pieces of content. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. You can send us an email easily enough, or you can get in touch with us on social. Or you can simply post a comment on this video. The live chat should be available after the event, so anyone tuning in later will be able to get that live chat there. But I just would like to say thank you very much. Thanks to the team for behind the scenes tonight, and thank you for tuning in. I hope that this has been useful. I hope that if the masterclass is for you, then you consider taking part in the class of July 2020. Merci beaucoup et à très bientôt. Au revoir.